Ben had lost his school fees on his way back from school. He had kept it carefully in his pocket, but somehow it had fallen without him knowing. As he walked under the hot sun, tears rolled down his cheeks. He was crying so hard that people passing by looked at him, but no one stopped. A woman sat on a small stool by the roadside, waiting to be hired as a maid for the day. She looked up and saw the boy crying. Her heart moved with pity and she quickly stood up. "My child, why are you crying like this?" she asked gently. Ben wiped his face with the back of his hand and sniffed. "Mama, I've lost my school fees. I don't know how. I've searched everywhere, but I can't find it." The woman stepped closer. "Calm down, my son. Tell me what happened. By the way, my name is Mrs. Ann." Ben explained. "I live with my father and stepmother. My father lost his job some months ago. Now my stepmother is the one feeding us. She gave me this money to pay my school fees today. She told me not to come back home without the school receipt. If I do, she will beat me and maybe even send my father out of the house." Mrs. Ann's heart broke. She didn't have much. She was a poor widow struggling to survive each day by working as a maid. What she made that day was the only money she had left. But when she looked at Ben's face, she didn't think twice. "How much is the school fees?" she asked softly. 5,000 naira, Ben replied in a shaky voice. Anne reached into the old tin box she kept in her bag. She brought out a small bundle of notes. It was all she had made that day. Slowly, she placed it in Ben's hand. "Here, take it. Go and pay your school fees," she said with a weak smile. Ben's eyes widened in surprise. "Mama, are you sure?" "Yes, my child," she said, nodding. "It's my last, but it's okay. Be serious in school, don't follow bad friends. One day, you will be great." Ben held the money tightly and wiped his tears. "Thank you, Mama. I promise I will make you proud. When I become rich, I will never forget you. I will look for you and help you." Anne smiled and nodded. "Make sure you don't forget my name." "I won't," Ben said. She placed her hand gently on his head and whispered a prayer. Then she returned to her spot, still with no food for herself, but with peace in her heart. Ben ran toward the school before the gate closed. He looked back once and whispered, "God bless that woman." When Ben got home, he looked tired but a little calm. He had paid his school fees and had the receipt in his pocket. His father was sitting on a small bench looking worried and stressed as usual. "Ben, welcome," his father said. "Did you pay the school fees?" Ben nodded slowly. "Yes, Daddy, I did." His father stood up relieved. "Good. That's one less problem. Let me see the receipt." Ben brought it out and gave it to him. But then he looked down and said, "Daddy, I have to tell you something." His father frowned. "What is it?" Ben swallowed hard and said, "I lost the money on my way to school today." His father's face changed immediately. "What? You did what?" "I lost it, Daddy. I don't know how. I kept it in my pocket. I searched everywhere. I cried," Ben explained quickly. His father's voice rose. "Ben, how could you be so careless? Do you know what that money means to this house? Your stepmother will starve us again. She warned me. She will say I'm useless. She may even send us out." Ben's eyes filled with tears again. "I'm sorry, Daddy. I didn't mean to. I was so scared. I thought about not coming home." His father turned away, breathing heavily. "But then someone helped me," Ben added quietly. His father looked at him again. "Who?" Ben smiled through his tears. "A woman. She works as a maid by the roadside. She saw me crying and asked what was wrong. I told her everything. She gave me 5,000 naira. She said it was her last money, but she didn't mind. She told me to be serious in school and not to follow bad friends." His father blinked, confused. "Wait, she gave you money? Just like that?" Ben nodded. "Yes, she was kind. She said her name is Mrs. Ann." For a moment the room was quiet. Then his father sat down slowly. "God bless that woman," he whispered. "A stranger helped my son when even we had nothing left. Ben, we must go and thank her. This kind of kindness is rare. Ben smiled. Yes, Daddy. I want to thank her too. I promised her that I won't forget her. When I become rich, I will look for her and help her. His father placed a hand on his back. And I believe you, son. God will help you. While Ben and his father were planning to visit Mrs. Ann to thank her, something terrible was already happening on her side. That morning, Ann was sitting quietly on her stool by the roadside, hoping for a cleaning job. Business was slow and her stomach was empty, but her heart was still full of peace because she had helped a crying boy the day before. Suddenly, she heard loud noises. People were shouting. Big trucks and men wearing uniforms were coming down the road. One of the men held a megaphone and shouted, "All roadside workers must be removed. This is government land. You were warned." Before she could even pack her things, they started pulling down her small setup. Her cleaning supplies scattered all over the ground. Her old umbrella was thrown aside. She begged them, "Please wait, let me pack my things." But no one listened. They pushed and broke her wooden stool completely. Anne stood there crying, holding one small bucket she could save. Her sweat mixed with her tears as she watched everything she had destroyed in minutes. "Where will I wait for work now?" she cried. "How will I feed my daughter?" The other women beside her were also crying and begging, but it was too late. The trucks had already moved to the next street. Anne carried her small bucket and walked home slowly under the hot sun. Her slippers were dusty and her heart was heavy. All she could think about was how to tell her daughter Grace the bad news. But as she turned the corner to their house, she stopped in shock. Grace was already standing outside crying too. Their bags and few belongings were thrown outside the gate. The landlord, a tall man with a big stomach, stood there with a wicked smile. "Mrs. Ann," he said, "I told you, I warned you. You have not paid house rent for 1 full year. I'm tired of your excuses. You and your daughter must leave now." Anne's mouth opened, but no words came out. She dropped her bucket and rushed to her daughter. "Grace, are you okay?" Grace nodded, wiping her tears. "Mama, they threw everything outside. I begged them to wait for you, but they refused." Anne turned to the landlord. "Please give me a little more time. I just lost my spot today. I don't even know where to go, please." But the man turned away. "I have new tenants coming. I don't run charity. Go and sleep in the street if you like." He walked back inside and shut the gate. Anne and Grace sat beside their bags. The sun was going down. People passed by. Some looked, some whispered, but nobody helped. Anne held her daughter close. "I'm sorry, my child," she said, her voice shaking. "I tried, I really tried." Grace rested her head on her mother's shoulder. "I know, Mama. You're the best mother in the world. God will help us." Anne looked up at the sky. Her lips moved slowly as she whispered, "God, I don't regret helping that boy. If I had to choose again, I'd still give him my last money. I just need a miracle now." That night they slept outside on the cold ground beside their bags. No food, no roof, no light. But Anne still held on to faith in her heart. The next morning, Anne and her daughter Grace woke up early. They hadn't slept well. The cold ground had made their bodies stiff and their stomachs were empty. Anne sat quietly for a moment, then turned to Grace. "My daughter," she said, gently rubbing her back. "We cannot stay like this. Let's go to the next city. My old friend, Mrs. Rose, lives there. Maybe she can help us." Grace nodded. She trusted her mother, even in hard times. Anne used the little money she had left from her work to pay for 2 bus tickets. It wasn't much, but just enough to take them to the nearby city. They sat at the back of the old crowded bus, holding their bags tightly. The journey was about an hour, but it felt longer. Anne kept looking out the window, praying silently in her heart. When they arrived, they walked slowly to the street where Mrs. Rose lived. Anne hadn't seen her in a long time, but she remembered the house. She knocked on the gate gently, hoping and praying that her friend would still be there. A few seconds later, the gate opened, and there stood Mrs. Rose, surprised and speechless. "Anne," she asked, looking closely, "what? Why do you look like this?" Tears rolled down Anne's cheeks as she hugged her friend. Sister, we lost everything. Government people demolished my spot yesterday. Then when I got home, my landlord had thrown us out. We slept outside with our bags. Mrs. Rose gasped and opened the gate wide. Come in, my sister. Come in quickly. She brought them inside, gave them water to drink, and sat them down. Just then, Mrs. Rose shook her head in amazement. Anne, you are lucky. You came just at the right time. My husband and I are relocating this weekend. I was about to give the house key back to the landlord today so I could collect our 1-year advance rent. Anne looked confused. What do you mean? I mean the house is already paid for, Mrs. Rose said, smiling. You can stay here. Just take over the place. I will tell the landlord to change the name on the rent. You don't have to pay anything yet. Anne's hands flew to her mouth. Ah, Mrs. Rose, you want to give me your house just like that? Yes, Anne. You're my friend and you need help. God must have sent you here at the right time. Anne fell on her knees, tears pouring from her eyes. Thank you, thank you. God will bless you, sister. He will reward you richly. You don't know what this means to me and my daughter. Wait, Mrs. Rose added. I'm not done. I also have some small money I saved for emergencies. You can use it to find more cleaning work. It should be enough for that and for Grace's school fees too. Anne began to cry. She held her friend's hands and said, You don't know what you've done for me. Just yesterday I had nothing. Now I have a roof and a new start. God will bless you, Mrs. Rose. He will reward you richly. You will never lack. Mrs. Rose hugged her tightly. That's what friends are for. You helped me once when I was in need. It's my turn now. Grace smiled for the first time in days. Thank you, Auntie, she said. I'll study hard and make you proud. 3 days later, Ben reminded his father about their plan to go and thanked the kind woman who helped him. Daddy, we promised to thank her. Let's go today. His father nodded. Yes, my son, let us go. A person like that deserves our thanks. They took a bus to the street where Ben had met the woman, but when they got there, they were shocked. The whole row of roadside workers was gone. Everything had been demolished. The land was now empty. Broken wood, scattered buckets, and torn umbrellas were all that remained. It was quiet, and there was no one around to ask questions. Ben's heart sank. Daddy, this is where she sat. This is her spot. What happened? His father looked around. It must be the government demolition we heard about. They have sent all of them away. But how do we find her now? Ben looked left and right, hoping to see someone who knew her, but nobody was there. Sadly, they turned and walked back home. As they stepped into the compound, Ben's stepmother was already standing at the door with her hands on her waist. Where are both of you coming from? She asked sharply. Ben's father answered calmly. We went to look for the woman who helped Ben pay his school fees. What woman? She asked, frowning. Ben's father explained. Ben lost his school fees. A poor woman who works as a maid helped him. She gave him her last money. We went to thank her, but we couldn't find her. The woman burst out laughing. Ah, what a nice story. And you expect me to believe that? You left this house since morning to go thank a woman. Are you not ashamed? Ben stepped forward. But it's true, Ma. She really helped me. Shut up, boy, she shouted. Your father is cheating on me with that woman. That's why he left here this morning. Look at you both. Like father, like son. Ben's father was shocked. How can you say that? I'm telling you the truth. She helped your own stepson. Why are you thinking like this? Leave my house, she screamed. I'm tired of taking care of two foolish people. You useless man. You and your liar of a son should just go and live with that maid. Before they could say anything else, she went inside and started throwing out their clothes and bags. Out! Out of my house! They stood there confused, ashamed and speechless. Ben's father carried their bags slowly. He didn't want to argue. They walked down the street looking for where to rest. Finally, they found a small store with a bench outside and sat down. The shopkeeper, a kind man, allowed them to rest there. As they sat quietly, Ben's father looked up and saw a small shop that sold games and tickets for lucky draws. He stood up. Ben, wait here. Let me try something. Where are you going, Daddy? Ben asked. Just a small game. "I'll be back," he said. He walked into the shop. He only had a little money in his pocket, the last note he was saving for their dinner. But something inside him said, "Try it." He bought a lottery ticket, wrote down the numbers quickly, and left. He didn't expect anything. It was just a chance to forget their troubles for a few minutes. 2 days later, Ben's father went back to the shop, walking slowly, just to check the results. The shop owner looked at the paper and suddenly shouted, "Wait, sir! This is the winning number." Ben's father was confused. "What do you mean?" "You've won! You won the jackpot!" the man said, jumping. "You've won 100 million naira!" Ben's father stood there frozen. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. 100 what? 100 million, the shop owner repeated. "You're a rich man now." Ben's father began to shake. His knees felt weak. He sat on the nearest chair and held his head with both hands. Tears began to fall from his eyes. "God, is this really happening to me?" He cried there. Tears of shock, tears of pain, and tears of joy. Everything had turned around in a moment. No more hunger, no more shame, no more sleeping outside. 15 years had passed. Ben was no longer the small boy who once cried on the roadside because he lost his school fees. He had grown into a tall, handsome young man. His voice was deep, his steps were bold, and his heart was full of dreams. He was now the only son of a billionaire. After his father won 100 million naira that day, everything changed. They moved into a big house, started a business, and from there the money kept growing. Ben didn't waste the opportunity. He worked hard, went to school, and studied business. After university, he started his own company. It didn't take long before his business became one of the fastest-growing companies in the country. He became known for his smart ideas, humble attitude, and kind heart. But there was something Ben never forgot. The woman who helped him. Every year, on the same date, he would sit quietly in his office and remember the day she gave him her last money. He searched for her many times, but no one knew where she had gone after her spot was demolished. Still, Ben never gave up hope. He kept praying, "One day I will find her. I must find her." Meanwhile, in a small town far away, Anne and her daughter Grace were still struggling. Life hadn't been easy. The money Mrs. Rose gave them helped for some time, but after that, they went back to starting over again and again. They lived in a small room at the back of an old compound. Anne still worked as a maid, cleaning houses. Her back ached now, and her eyes were not as sharp as before, but she kept pushing. Grace had grown into a beautiful young woman. She was respectful, hard-working, and full of dreams, too. She had graduated from the university 1 year ago, but job hunting was hard. She had applied to many companies, attended several interviews, but nothing came through. So she stayed home, sometimes helping her mother by selling small baskets of tomatoes. Each morning, Grace would wear an old apron, sit beside her mother's old spot, and arrange the tomatoes on a wooden table. She would shout, "Fresh tomatoes here! Buy your sweet tomatoes!" hoping to make a few sales before the sun became too hot. Some days they sold enough to eat. Other days they returned home with tears and leftover tomatoes. "Mama, don't worry," Grace would say. "I believe our story will change one day." Anne would smile weakly and nod. "I know, my daughter. God is watching." But inside, she worried. She wished she could give Grace a better life, a soft bed, a good job, a happy future. One evening, as the sun was going down and they were packing their goods, Anne sat down and said, "Grace, do you still remember that little boy I helped so many years ago?" Grace smiled. "Yes, Mama. You've told me that story many times." "I wonder where he is now," Anne said softly. "I hope he's doing well." It was a bright Saturday morning. Anne had gone to a cleaning job, leaving Grace to watch over their small table by the roadside. She sat quietly, fanning herself with a piece of cardboard and waiting for customers. Suddenly, a black car parked a few steps away. A tall, well-dressed man stepped out. He looked gentle and carried himself like someone important. He walked over to Grace's table and smiled politely. "Good afternoon, young lady," he said. "Good afternoon, sir," Grace replied with a warm smile. I just came from a friend's daughter's wedding in this area, the man said. I want to buy some tomatoes to cook stew when I get home. Grace began selecting the freshest tomatoes for him. As she placed them in a bag, something inside her pushed her to ask a question. Sir, sorry to ask, she said shyly. Please don't be offended. Why would a man like you go home to cook stew by yourself? Don't you have a wife or children? The man chuckled softly. No offense at all, that's a good question. He looked down for a moment and then spoke slowly. I don't have a wife. My only son is always out of the country for business. He's hardly around, so I live alone. I had a cook, but she recently relocated to another state with her family. That's why I now cook for myself. Grace nodded with understanding. Oh, okay, I understand now, sir. I've been searching for someone who is not only a good cook, but also honest and trustworthy. The man continued. I'm tired of eating restaurant food. He smiled again and extended his hand. By the way, my name is Mr. Harris. I'm a businessman. Grace shook his hand politely. Nice to meet you, sir. My name is Grace. Mr. Harris looked at her again. What are you doing selling tomatoes here? You look like someone with more education. Grace smiled weakly. Yes, sir. I graduated from university last year. I've been looking for a job since then, but nothing yet. So, I sell tomatoes to help my mother support us. Mr. Harris raised his eyebrows. What if I offer you a job? Grace looked up quickly. A job, sir? Yes. He nodded. I already like your spirit. You speak well. You seem respectful. Come and work for me as my cook. I'll pay you a very good salary. That is, if you're truly a good cook. Grace's eyes widened in shock. Are you serious, sir? Very serious, he replied, smiling. I've been looking for someone just like you. Grace's heart raced. Sir, I am a very good cook. My mother can tell you I cook most of the meals in our house. I even bake sometimes. Mr. Harris laughed lightly. That's good. I believe you. Then Grace's face fell a little. Sir, the only problem is we don't live in the same city, sir. Mr. Harris didn't seem bothered. That's not a problem. You can come and live in my house. I have more than enough space. I'll give you your own room. You can go home twice a month to see your mother. Emily couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her heart was full of joy. A job, a place to stay, and a good salary. It all felt like a dream. Sir, thank you so much. I'm so grateful. But I have to go home and tell my mother first. I must get her blessing. Of course, Mr. Harris said kindly. He brought out his phone and gave her his number. Call me tomorrow and let me know your decision. If you're not interested, I'll understand and look for someone else. Grace took the number with shaking hands. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. He smiled, picked up his tomatoes and walked back to his car. As the car drove away, Grace stood frozen. Then she sat down slowly, her eyes full of tears, this time not from sadness, but from hope. She looked at the number again and whispered, Mama, maybe our story is finally about to change. That evening, Anne returned from her cleaning job. She looked tired and worn out. She saw Grace sitting on the wooden chair, smiling to herself. Anne dropped her bucket and looked at her daughter closely. Grace, what's making you smile like that? You are laughing like someone that won the lottery. Grace stood up quickly, full of excitement. Mama, welcome. I have good news for you. Anne smiled. A man came to the stall today while you were away. He wanted to buy tomatoes and we started talking. His name is Mr. Harris. He said he's a businessman and he lives in the next city. Anne raised one eyebrow. Okay, go on. He told me he doesn't have a wife and his son is always out of the country. He said he needs someone to cook for him. His cook relocated. Mama, he offered me a job. Anne's eyes widened. A job? Just like that? From buying tomatoes to offering you a job? Yes, Mama, Grace replied, her smile growing. He said he likes me, that I speak well and look responsible. He said I can live in his house and he will pay me well. Anne's smile disappeared. She sat up straight. And live in his house? Grace, don't you know the world is dangerous? What if he is a ritualist? I don't trust some of these billionaires. You think because he wore fine clothes and drove a big car, he is normal? Grace tried to stay calm. Mama, please don't think like that. Grace, Anne snapped. Don't mama me. I'm your mother. Do you know how many girls have gone missing because of offers like this? What if he's a kidnapper? What if he locks you inside one big house and we never see you again? Grace held her mother's hand gently. Mama, I understand your fear, but he didn't force me. He gave me his number and said I should call him if I'm interested. He didn't even collect my number. He said I can take my time. Anne looked into her daughter's eyes. Grace, are you sure about this? My spirit is not settled. Grace nodded. I will ask questions when I get to his neighborhood. I will find out from people who live there. If anything looks strange, I won't enter the house. Anne was quiet. She looked away and sighed deeply. You know, you are all I have in this world. If anything happens to you, I'm finished. Grace leaned on her shoulder. Mama, nothing will happen to me. I promise. This might be the breakthrough we've been praying for. I don't want to keep sitting here waiting for a job that may never come. Anne slowly began to relax. She wiped a tear from her eye and whispered, I just want you to be safe. I will be, Mama, Grace replied, hugging her tightly. And when I start working, I'll send you money. You will stop cleaning houses under the sun. You'll rest. That's my promise. Anne kissed her forehead. Okay, my daughter. If your heart is at peace with it, then go. But please be careful. Very, very careful. Grace smiled and nodded. Thank you, Mama. I will call Mr. Harris today. As she walked into the room to find her phone, Anne looked up at the sky and prayed silently. Lord, if this man is truly sent by you, let it work out. But if he means evil, let Grace never step into that house. The next morning, Grace stood outside with her phone in hand. She took a deep breath and dialed the number Mr. Harris gave her. Her heart beat fast as it rang. Hello? The deep, calm voice answered. Good morning, sir. This is Grace, she said with a small smile. I spoke to my mother and she has agreed. Oh, that's wonderful news, Mr. Harris said happily. Thank you for calling. I'll send you the directions now. Just take a bus to my area and I'll have someone waiting at the bus stop to bring you in. Thank you, sir. I'll be on my way shortly. After the call, Grace rushed inside. Mama, I'm going now. Anne stood at the door, her eyes full of love and worry. She hugged her daughter tightly. God will go with you. Don't forget everything I told you. Shine your eyes and don't let your guard down. I will, Mama. I promise. Grace packed her small bag, hugged her mother again, and left for the bus park. The ride took almost an hour, but she was excited. When she got to the bus stop, a man wearing a neat shirt waved at her. Are you Miss Grace? Yes, she replied. Follow me, he smiled. My boss is waiting. They entered a clean car and drove through a quiet, beautiful neighborhood. When they reached Mr. Harris's compound, Grace's eyes widened. The house was large and beautiful. Flowers lined the walkway, and the gate was painted bright white. It was like a house from a movie. Mr. Harris came out to welcome her. You're welcome, Grace. Come in, come in. This will be your new home. Grace smiled. Thank you, sir. This place is beautiful. He led her inside and showed her a clean, simple room with a bed, a wardrobe, and even a small mirror. You'll stay here, and the kitchen is just down the hallway. Don't worry, I'll treat you like family. Just be yourself and cook good food, he said, laughing. Grace started work that same day. She cleaned the kitchen, made jollof rice and fried fish, and soon became the heart of the house. Every corner smelled like her food. Mr. Harris smiled every time he ate, always saying, This is the best thing that has happened to me since my cook left. 2 weeks later, something unexpected happened. Mr. Harris's only son, Ben, returned from his trip abroad. He came back without telling anyone. The gate opened quietly and his car drove in. He entered the house with his suitcase and walked straight to the kitchen where the sweet smell of a goosey soup filled the air. He stepped in and saw her, a young woman, standing by the gas cooker, stirring the pot gently. Her face was calm, her skin glowing, and her eyes focused on the food. He stood there for a second, then said, Good afternoon. Grace turned quickly. Oh, good afternoon, sir, she said, smiling shyly. I'm Ben. You must be the new cook. Yes, sir. My name is Grace. Nice to meet you, he said with a smile. Your food smells amazing. Thank you, sir, she replied softly. Ben walked to the living room, dropped his bag, then found his father reading a newspaper. "Dad," he said, sitting down beside him. "Ben, welcome back." Mr. Harris smiled. "You came back early. How was your trip?" "Good," Ben said casually, then leaned closer. "But Dad, you never told me the new cook you hired is this beautiful." "Damn, Dad, she's hot." Mr. Harris dropped his newspaper and gave his son a serious look. "Hey, remove your eyes from that girl. She came here to cook, not to be chased around." Ben laughed. "I'm just saying the truth. She's not only beautiful, she smells like home-cooked stew." Mr. Harris chuckled and shook his head. "Just behave yourself." I will," Ben said, smiling. But as he leaned back on the sofa, he couldn't stop thinking about the girl in the kitchen, the girl who cooked like a queen and smiled like peace. Days passed in Mr. Harris's house, and things became smoother for Grace. She had gotten used to the kitchen, the cleaning routine, and even the large compound with beautiful flowers. But there was one thing she hadn't gotten used to yet, Ben. Since the day he returned from his trip, he would always find his way to the kitchen, pretending to be hungry when he just wanted to see her. He would ask unnecessary questions like, "Is the rice ready?" when she had just finished serving him 10 minutes ago. Or sometimes he would walk in and say, "Grace, teach me how to boil water. I want to learn cooking." Grace would laugh and say, "Sir, you don't need to know how to boil water. You already have me." And Ben would reply with a grin, "Exactly. That's why I like coming here." He made her laugh every day. He helped her carry tomatoes when she returned from the market. He even bought her a small apron with her name written on it in gold letters. But Ben never crossed the line. He didn't flirt openly or make her uncomfortable. He treated her with respect like a queen in the kitchen. Grace started waiting to hear his footsteps every morning. She would cook with extra care, hoping he would be the first to taste her food. She started checking her reflection in the spoon, adjusting her hair and smiling for no reason when she remembered his voice. One evening, as the sun was setting, Mr. Harris walked into the kitchen and found Grace humming while chopping onions. "Grace, you look happy," he said. She blushed. "I'm just grateful, sir." Mr. Harris smiled. "Good. You're a blessing to this house." The next weekend, Mr. Harris gave her permission to visit her mother. "Go and see your mama. I'm sure she misses you." Grace was excited. She packed some groceries and a little gift she bought for her mother with her first salary, a new wrapper, and a pair of soft slippers. When she arrived home, her mother rushed out and hugged her tightly. "My daughter, you're looking fresh. God has done it." Grace laughed. "Mama, I missed you." Inside the house, Anne served her some hot yam porridge, and they sat down to catch up. "Mama," Grace said, "I need to tell you something." Anne looked up. "What is it?" "There's a man. He's Mr. Harris's son," Grace said, smiling shyly. "He's young, tall, handsome, respectful, funny, and—" "And?" Anne asked, folding her arms. "And I think I'm falling in love with him." Anne's eyes widened. "Grace, you're falling in love?" Grace nodded. "Yes, Mama. I haven't told him yet. I don't even know if he feels the same. But there's something about him. The way he looks at me, the way he talks, the way he makes me laugh." Anne smiled slowly. "Love is a beautiful thing, my daughter, but be careful. Don't rush. Look well." "I'm not rushing, Mama," Grace said. I don't know. My heart feels soft every time I see him. I can't explain it." Anne laughed gently. "That's how love starts." "Mama," Grace whispered, "what if he loves me too?" "Then my daughter," Anne said, holding her hand, "pray. If it is truly from God, it will happen. No man can stop what God has planned." Grace smiled and hugged her mother. Her heart was full of hope, like a flower just beginning to bloom. Far away, back at the big house, Ben was in his room, staring at the ceiling. He smiled and whispered to himself, "This girl, Grace, there's something special about her. I think I'm in love with her." Ben sat in the garden behind their big house, watching the flowers sway gently in the breeze. His heart was full, but his mind was troubled. He had never felt this way before, not even in all his travels, business meetings, or the fancy parties he had attended. Grace. That name had taken over his thoughts, his heart, his dreams. He stood up and walked into the living room where his father was sipping tea and reading a newspaper. "Dad," he said, standing in front of him. Mr. Harris looked up. "Ben, you look serious. Is everything all right?" Ben took a deep breath. "Dad, I'm in love with Grace." Mr. Harris smiled and placed the cup on the table. "I knew it." "You knew?" Ben asked, surprised. Mr. Harris laughed softly. "Of course. I see the way you look at her, the way you follow her into the kitchen like a lost puppy." Ben chuckled, then nodded. "Yes, Dad, I love her. I want to marry her as soon as possible. No time to waste." His father stood up slowly and placed his hand on Ben's shoulder. "My son, you have chosen well. That girl is special. She is respectful, well brought up, hard-working, intelligent, and beautiful. Who wouldn't want a daughter-in-law like her?" Ben smiled with relief. "Thank you, Dad." But he paused, lowering his voice. "I don't know how to tell her. I fear she might reject me." Mr. Harris laughed again. "Ben, you afraid of rejection?" "I'm serious, Dad," Ben said. "She's not like the other girls I've known. She's real, simple, pure. I don't want to scare her or make her feel uncomfortable." His father nodded. "If you truly love her, then tell her your mind. Speak from your heart. Even if she says no, at least you'll know. But who knows? She might just like you too." Ben looked down. "I hope so, Dad. I really hope so." The next day, Grace returned from visiting her mother. She looked even more beautiful, like someone who had been soaked in love and joy. She entered the house and Ben came out to help her with her bag. "Welcome back," he said, smiling warmly. "Thank you, sir," she replied. No more, sir. Just call me Ben," he said. She smiled and nodded. "Okay, Ben." He took a deep breath. "Grace, can we talk, please, just 5 minutes?" "Of course," she said, feeling butterflies in her stomach. He led her to the small garden at the back of the house. The flowers were in full bloom, the birds sang softly, and the sky was a soft orange. Ben turned to her and looked straight into her eyes. "Grace," he began, his voice shaking a little. "I know this might sound funny or surprising or even foolish to you, but I can't keep it inside anymore." Grace stood still, her heart racing. "I am deeply in love with you," he said. "From the first day I saw you in the kitchen, the way you moved, the way you smiled, the way you cared. I couldn't stop thinking about you. You've stolen my heart and I don't want it back." Grace gasped slightly. "I don't waste time," Ben continued. "Life is short and I know what I want. I want you, Grace. I want to marry you. Please don't say no. Marry me." For a moment, there was silence. Grace stood frozen. Then slowly she stepped closer, her eyes full of emotion. "Ben," she said softly, "from the first day I saw you, I fell for you too. But I couldn't say it." "Why?" Ben asked, surprised. She smiled. "Because I'm a woman, and it's the man's duty to say I love you first, not the woman." Ben laughed, tears forming in his eyes. "So all this while you loved me too?" Grace nodded. "Yes, I just didn't know if you felt the same." Ben held her hands gently. "I do with all my heart. Will you marry me, Grace?" Grace smiled, her eyes shining with joy. "Yes, Ben, I will marry you." He pulled her into a warm hug, and the flowers around them seemed to dance. The wind blew softly as if it was clapping for their love. Inside the house, Mr. Harris looked out the window and smiled. "This is what happens when destiny speaks," he whispered. And somewhere far away, Anne knelt in her small room, praying. "Lord," she said, "wherever my daughter is right now, please let her be happy." She had no idea that her daughter was already walking into her answered prayer. A few days later, Ben said to Grace, "I want to meet your mother." I want to thank her for raising such a wonderful woman. I want to look into her eyes and tell her I want to marry her daughter." Grace smiled sweetly and nodded. "She'll be happy to meet you too." That Saturday morning they both dressed simply but neatly. Ben looked calm, but his heart was beating fast. They were on their way to visit Anne, Grace's mother. "Are you nervous?" Grace asked him, holding his hand. Ben chuckled. "A little. I've never met someone's mother as a fiancée before." Grace smiled. "Relax. She'll love you. Just be yourself." As they reached Grace's small family house, Ben looked around. The area was quiet and humble. They knocked gently on the wooden door and Grace pushed it open. They both stepped into the living room and sat down on a simple brown sofa. The air smelled like home, warm and real. "Is your mother around?" Ben asked. "I think she stepped out to buy something," Grace replied. "But she'll be back soon." A few minutes later, the front door opened. Anne walked in slowly, carrying a black nylon bag. Her face looked tired but brightened when she saw her daughter. "My daughter, you didn't tell me you were coming today," she said with surprise. Grace stood up and hugged her. "Mama, I wanted to surprise you. I brought someone with me." Anne turned to look at Ben. He stood up and greeted her respectfully. "Good afternoon, Ma," he said, bowing slightly. "Good afternoon, my son," she replied, looking at him closely. "You didn't tell me your visitor was this fine," Anne teased, laughing. She looked at Ben for a second, then turned, but Ben kept staring at her. Something inside him stirred, a memory, a voice, a face. As Anne turned back around, he stepped closer, his voice soft and a little shaky. "Ma, please, your name. Is it Anne?" Anne looked confused. "Yes, I am Anne. Do we know each other?" Ben smiled sadly. "You don't remember me, do you?" She shook her head slowly. "No, I'm sorry. Many years ago I was just a small boy. I had lost my school fees and was crying by the roadside." Anne's face remained still. "I told you everything. How my stepmother would beat me if I didn't pay. You were working as a maid, waiting for jobs. You listened to me. You gave me 5,000 naira, your last money, and told me to be serious in school." Anne gasped a little. "You prayed for me. You told me to never forget you. You said your name was Anne and I never did." Her mouth slowly dropped open. "Wait, are you that small boy?" Ben nodded. "Yes, Ma. I am the boy you helped." He stood and knelt gently before her. "You didn't just help me, Ma. You gave me hope. You saved me from shame and pain. That one act changed my life. I became something because of that one moment of kindness." Anne's eyes filled with tears. She covered her mouth and sat down slowly, shocked. "God, you mean that boy? That was you?" "Yes," Ben said. "And I've been looking for you for years, and I never knew the woman I fell in love with is your daughter." Grace also had tears in her eyes. She gently rubbed her mother's back. "Mama, I didn't know too until now." Anne couldn't speak for a moment. She just sat there looking at Ben with shaking hands. "See how you've grown. See how God lifted you." Ben held her hands. "Now I want to bless you the same way you blessed me. I want to marry your daughter, Mama. I want to take care of both of you. This is not just love. This is destiny." Anne broke down in tears. "God, you are too faithful." She looked at her daughter. "Grace, you didn't tell me you were in love with an angel." Grace laughed through her tears. "I didn't even know he was the boy you helped. I just loved him for who he is." Anne smiled and looked at Ben. "You're welcome, my son. You were once a boy who needed help. Now you've returned as a man with blessings. I thank God for this moment." They hugged tightly. In that small room, hearts were healed, promises were remembered, and a beautiful future was born. The next morning, Ben woke up with one thing on his mind: honor. He didn't just want to marry Grace. He wanted to honor the woman who had changed his life with one small act of kindness. Later that day, he called Grace and her mother, Anne, to come outside and sit in front of their house. A car pulled up slowly and 4 men came out carrying large bags of rice, cartons of food, cooking oil, new pots, and 2 lovely wrappers wrapped in shiny gold paper. "What's going on?" Anne asked, surprised. Ben stood smiling. This is just the beginning, Mama. One of the men brought a clean brown envelope and gave it to Anne. She opened it slowly. Her hand started shaking. It was a check with her name boldly written on it for 10 million naira. Anne covered her mouth. Ben, what is this? This is for you, Mama, he said gently. For everything you lost, for all the years you suffered, for the rent you couldn't pay, for your spot that was destroyed, for your last 5,000 naira that you gave to a crying boy without asking for anything in return. You deserve this and more. Anne burst into tears, unable to speak, but that wasn't all. Ben turned to her again. Mama, there's one more thing. He brought out another small envelope and handed it to her. She opened it and found a set of shiny keys inside, along with papers. That's the key and documents to your new house, Mama, he said, kneeling before her. A 3-bedroom house in the same town, fully furnished, already paid for in your name. You will never pay rent again. Never. Anne dropped to her knees, weeping. God, you remembered me. Grace hugged her mother tightly. Mama, this is your reward. God never forgot you. A few weeks later, Ben and Grace had a beautiful garden wedding. It was colorful, simple, but full of love and meaning. Grace wore a flowing white dress. Ben stood proudly beside her, smiling from ear to ear. Mr. Harris looked at his son with pride. Anne sat beside him wearing her new wrapper and matching head tie, her skin glowing, her heart full. From a humble maid to a homeowner and the mother of a bride, God had truly lifted her. As they danced, Ben leaned close to Grace and whispered, I told you I don't waste time. Grace smiled. And I told you I loved you from the first day. Ben turned to look at Anne, who was laughing and dancing joyfully. He smiled and whispered again, She gave me her last. Now I have given her my best. A few months later, Grace had just given birth to 2 healthy twin boys. The house was filled with joy. Mr. Harris lifted one baby, smiling proudly. Anne held the other, tears of joy in her eyes. My daughter, God has doubled your blessings, she said softly. Ben hugged Grace and whispered, You have made me the happiest man alive. And they all lived happily ever after. Dear viewers, what lessons did you take away from this dramatic tale? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates.